There we go.
Okay, so you count down.
How about we just go?
Go
We
where?
need a countdown, do we?
Why did? Oh, I bet it's dying. I bet that's what's doing.
Oh, that wouldn't be good.
It's still not bad lighting though.
So here we are, Beyond the Bell, episode 1.
Episode 1.
Took us, what, 3 hours to set this up?
That's about right.
Video, technology, which I have no knowledge of. The geese, compliments of Chad, but I did it all because I'm that guy.
So what's your name?
Name is Graham, also known as Rabbit BJJ on our app, Signal, also on Boost, which,
And what's our goal with this podcast?
well, if I'm shooting from the hip on this, I think that our goal is probably to reach out to people, particularly men, um, young men, old men, middle aged men, doesn't matter. Um, Maybe in the same fashion that Jiu-Jitsu reaches out to those people, but more in a mental sort of way, a conversational type of way, helping everybody learn how to deal with whether it's overthinking, what to do with depression, how to help you with your kids, your wife, your girlfriend, dealing with your job, those kind of stressors that occur every day.
So what do you do for a living?
I'm a registered nurse in mental health. Have a background in emergency medicine, intensive care medicine, and you get to a point where you get tired of watching people die. And I wanted to be part of something that was a little bit more proactive. One of the largest fields right now growing in the medical community is mental health. We have all these horrible things that are going around right now in society, and one of the big ones is drug use. And just generally speaking, mental health itself has been so taboo for so many years. But I think society's starting to accept it for being a real problem, and hopefully not half-assing it. In case a lot of people don't know, in the late 70s and early 80s, funding for a lot of state hospitals, things of that nature, lost all their federal funding due to laws and changing in where money goes and things like that. So, what happened was all these patients lost uh, their place to live, to be taken care of, to get medications. And the majority of these people don't ask for percentages. I ain't gonna do that. Ended up in the street. That is still what compromises, I think, the taboo that is mental health these days. Is they see homeless people talking to themselves, living in tent cities like they do L.A., New York, and the bigger cities where they have no place to go. Shelters can't handle them. So I think that's a large part of where the taboo comes from. That's a nutcase over there. Now, the other portion I'll just talk about real quick, and we already know, man, that's methamphetamines. Easy to make. The only thing you have to get a hold of is Sudafed or something of that nature to make it, and it causes methaneuropsychosis. So we're dealing with a lot of those kinds of things. Besides people that have suicidal thoughts, that self harm and things like that. So mental health is growing very fast. So I wanted to be part of that.
What do you think the biggest mental health issue is? The basic ones, like depression, anxiety.
I think depression and anxiety, without a doubt. I mean, you have these just like anything else. You have extremes. You have on one end, you do have maybe the general anxiety disorder, which that in itself can have extremes. Depression can have extremes. And overthinking can have extremes. I'm a horrible overthinker. But through the use of the Boost app, there's a great part on there where you can do journaling and it just guides you through things, and that has been an immense help for me to get things out of my head, get it in front of me, formulate a plan, and move on with it. So I think that's one of the things that I think that we should that I want to approach. I think that's probably number one. Now I know that we're jujitsu guys, And as far as I'm concerned, will be for life because every time I try to walk away, it sucks me back in.
No, I mean, I definitely think that jiu-jitsu is one of the things to help with a lot of mental health issues. I think it's kind of nice that you can show up on the mats and get out of your own head. You can't do a lot of thinking about what your life is going through when you're trying to sit there and survive in the situation. So to me, like some days I just want to show up and live roll, especially like when I teach hundreds of students or I'm teaching multiple locations every week. Like some days I just want to show up and I want to disconnect. And the sad part for me is like that's I can't run away from it and I can't be like, oh hey, I just want to take a day off. Like
Yes,
it's my
correct.
life every day.
It is.
So for me, I it's some people get on me as a coach, but like I'm a human just like everyone else, and I think people
Are
like
you really?
struggle to realize that.
Sometimes I think everybody thinks you're kind of like a robot.
Like I've struggled. I want to say with like the last couple months of like depression. I've never had depression in my life, but like I found myself like being stuck. Like what do you do to get ahead? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's like everything you do is not going to work. So how do you keep showing up to work? Like it's like you want to make a big academy, you want to change the world, you want to change people's lives, but you're watching everyone around you right now struggling. And I really think that the world's kind of in a point where it is struggling. I think that everyone has their own little battles, and it's like everyone is struggling, that you're feeling the pressure from everyone coming together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to exactly explain that, but like I can feel your pressure. I can feel so and so's pressure, and I have to almost absorb all of that and have to figure out how to be a coach and show up and still boost you guys
Right.
essentially
Right.
and boost myself.
Right.
And it got to a point where it's like I'm doing all these things and none of them are going to probably take off. And that's okay because essentially you have to, like, if you're going to do something, you're going to do it because you love it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like jiu-jitsu. Like I clearly knew that I probably wasn't going to be a millionaire doing jiu-jitsu, but I love jiu-jitsu. I love the whole concept of it. I thought, well, yesterday's training was good. I enjoy when I can have nice rolls. Like I don't mind getting my ass beat anymore. I've just had my ass beat a lot in my life. So I'm not necessarily like I'm not. Oh, I don't want to lose, but like at the same time, like I don't physically just want to get hurt anymore. Like I've had enough injuries.
I don't think anybody does really. That's
Well, I think when you're young and you're trying to become a world champion, you don't get a choice. Like you have to put your body. I mean, some of the things that some of these world champions go through nowadays and the way that they put their bodies through that, like they're done at 30. Like they're going to be in by 40, they're going to have some major issues. This next generation of people that are coming up, like, unless they train incredibly healthy and have a good diet plan and a good, like all the therapists and all the people that can do all the making sure that your workouts are 100% correct. Like if you're just out there banging as hard as you can every day, like you're going to be done by 40. So for me, I don't necessarily want that craziness anymore. For me, I just kind of want that game of chess, like where you tell me, "Hey, slow it down," and I slow it down, and then we play more chess moves.
right.
To
And
me,
which we
that's
did yesterday, which
way
worked out
more
very. I know
enjoyable.
the first round, you were pressure me. After the end of that round, I just could not breathe. I'm like, you got to stop. You're a robot, man.
It is. It's like a
And,
system to me. It's
right.
the more stressed I am and the more mental issues I'm having, the more that I become a robot on the mats. And it's weird, but to me, it's like I'm almost letting all those moves out because I've been saving that up.
Right.
So
I think I struggle with what works better because at my age, my cardio is nothing like a 30-year-old. I mean, I can hit the mats as much or even more, and it's still not going to be up to that level of a guy that trains just as hard as I do at 30 years old.
right.
Now, I've been in jiu-jitsu now since I was 37, so about 15 years now. I've made some incredible gains, gained lots of knowledge. So I struggle with that. Okay, so am I going to have to move fast, keep up with a guy, be more explosive, or um, take a little time? Do that chess, watch their body move, play my game, let them expend energy, hold them off, and then go for the submission, then go for the position that's going to get me what I want? Or do I just want to play with them, just control them the whole time? I love doing that. Something to brag. So we have a couple new really big guys that come on my Monday class. And of course, I'm always intimidating them because some of this guy's like 240 pounds and he hasn't been in it very long. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to do like side control or sit on mount because he's just thrown me off like a fly. So what I did, I just play a little game of cat and mouse where I dance around him, and anytime he tries to get up and come into, I just jerk out an elbow. Or if I see a foot hit the ground, I just reach down and hold it up for a minute, or just go into a double leg tie, something of that nature. And I, for the entire 5 minutes that we were rolling, I just did that. He was so exhausted, and I was so relaxed, and I felt like a huge sense of accomplishment to go against guys. I mean, we're talking an extra 100 pounds on me, and it really gives me great confidence. But I have to remember at the end of the day that yes, I am a coach. So going to him afterward, he said, "Jesus Christ, what was that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll tell you." So I told him everything I did, why I did it, because he is so much larger. I'm not going to be able to lay inside control or try to take him out. I would have to work it and work it and work it. Maybe wait until he tired out a little bit and then look at his submission. So we went over all those things, spent some time on the mat, and even though it made me feel really good about being able to do that. It was after that when I got to spend some time with this kid, and show him different things and why what he was doing wasn't working and why I was working well. And it made all the difference in the world. It really spoke to my heart when I do those things. So yeah, I'm 54 years old next month. Man, I'm not going to be hitting every Fuji, every Naga. You know, I want to hit a competition once a year, once every 18 months, maybe. See how I do against guys my age. So yeah, I'm not going to be busting myself. So in that aspect, I get it. But I still feel good. I can still roll really well, and I want to keep that pace up. So
So, with this podcast, our goal is to bring awareness to mental health in some ways to help other people hopefully have an idea of how to deal with their issues. I think you have a lot of knowledge in that. I don't have a lot of knowledge in it. Actually, if you ask Mandy, I kind of denied it for most of my life.
hey, denial's great.
I never really even considered it. And still in my mind, I have this thing like, because here's the thing that I really struggle with sometimes. And I think this is where it made me kind of realize that it is more real than I expected, was you can't out deny it. Like you can't, like, there's two things, right? So one is that I do believe we as humans can correct our own mindsets and we can correct our own paths and we are in charge of ourselves.
Right.
So I think sometimes that we go down these paths and we get stuck in this victim mentality and we want to hold on to these negative emotions. So like that's the battle that I'm in a lot of times. Like I know for sure in the last couple months I found myself in a depression where I feel like everything I'm doing isn't going to get me ahead. It's not going to get my family ahead. So what's the point in doing it? I might as well just stay in bed. So I know that I found myself there, but I also know at the same time the only person that's going to get me out of it is me. Like no one's going to show up to my house and be like, "Hey Chad, like get out of bed today and go build this podcast. Hey Chad, go to the mats today.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Chad, go do some research on the internet and start learning new things
Right.
that can get your life to the next level."
It's engaging your mind.
Right.
That is what I found out. I've suffered from depression since I was, and first time I can remember, I was probably about 15 years old. Struggled with a lot of suicidal thoughts and did until I was um, a much older man, and in my 40s. And literally, I'd gotten to a point where I'd had enough tools to make myself realize what I had done for so long. And it was at that moment I decided to take all the therapies that were available to me 110% serious. I did therapy for a while. I started treating people different. It was about that time, I'd approached you and said, I want to do more. I want to be more active. What can I do? Of course, that was a couple of years after I kind of really got those kinds of thoughts under control. And being able to teach and give back to this sport that has given me so much, And we'll get into that in some other episodes. I'd like to talk about kind of the personal things that jiu-jitsu's done for us, and as well as pulling in stories from other men that have been affected by jiu-jitsu and how their lives changed. I have so many stories of guys that have come into my class on Mondays, and it is such a huge blessing to be able to be part of their lives in a way and watch those changes happen just a little at a time, and watch them get better and use their minds better and use their bodies better, get healthy on the outside, start accepting things. And man, here comes again denial. As men, man, I can deny all day. I'm perfect at it. I'm great at it. But my mind is set now. I have these tools that I've built over the years where I feel that denial and I reject it. Same thing with overthinking. I've gotten better at it. I feel it coming. I reject it. It comes to a point where you decide you're not going to give it space. You're not going to give it the brain cells that it requires to grow, fester, and become a mental cancer, if you will. So that's my take on where we're going. I'm real wordy about this because I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be part of this. Um, I'm not looking to be a movie star, but it's a great way, I think, to get ourselves out there and just help some people have a good time, joke around a lot. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about some things that we won't be talking about, things that you and I have kind of discussed off and on. And I think one thing, and I know we're gonna lose so many viewers after saying this. We will not be covering UFC fights. We will not be covering any of that crap. We will not talk about who wins. We will not talk about who's going to be fighting and how excited or unimportant it is. That's just not. I'm not interested. If you really want that kind of thing,
You can find a lot of podcasts.
oh my God, yes,
There's plenty of podcasts to tell you who your next fighter is going to be or who you think's going to be or do your picks. To me, after fighting Garrett White last year and realizing that I was failing as a man in a lot of ways.
Fighting Garrett White? I didn't know he did jiu-jitsu.
Finding. No, I.
Oh, finding. I thought you said fighting. I'm like, I didn't know he did jiu-jitsu.
It takes, to be a coach and to generate $100 million and changing lives. You can hate the man all you want. You can hate what he thinks about or how he talks or how he acts. You can hate as much as you want on anything you want in life, but anyone that's able to generate 100 million plus on just coaching other humans to be better people has success in some way that you'll never understand.
Or you think?
So to me, when he made the mission of like, this is what a man is, it woke me up.
Sure.
Because I'm sitting here thinking, I've been with this woman for 10 years and we're not getting anywhere. We're going in circles, and we're going in circles because all I'm doing is blaming her. But realistically, like if she's wanting me to be the man and to step up and to be a better human being and choose her better and choose our family, like I have to wake up. And that's been a hard thing for me because I think I've spent my entire life being a child. And I don't necessarily want to lose that child inside of me because that's something I think is important, that we all have this like small child in us that we enjoy life. I think that's what makes men more fun a lot of times than women, because we have the ability to be stupid and goofy and have fun. But at the same time, you've got to be able to flip the switch and be a man when you need to be a man.
Sure.
And I think that if we're going to go beyond the belt, I love the idea because I love jiu-jitsu, but I also love the concept that let's go beyond it and let's think about, like me as no one is a 20. When I was 20, no one showed me how to be a man. No one said, hey, look, you're going to turn 30 and then you're going to turn 40. And if you're still doing the same shit, you're going to get the same results. So how many men or how many young men are going to possibly watch this channel, and they're going to see every mistake that I made and you made. And they're going to get to hear those stories and possibly other people hear about where, have fun in your 20s, but eventually you got to grow up. And I don't think I ever made that shift until last year. 38 years old, 39 years old is when I started to, so now I'm basically a year of being a man. How sad is that?
So how long have you been alive? I'm one.
Yeah, well, I mean, realistically, in some sense, that's kind of true.
And what's really sad is even if you've been alive just, if you're just 1 years old, I'm still older than you. I'm like 6 now.
I mean, but that's the crazy part is I existed as a boy
Right.
for
Absolutely.
such a long time.
Absolutely.
And even Mandy tells me that sometimes. She's like, listen, like, you need to be the man. You need to be the leader. And that sucks.
It's a lot of
Sometimes
pressure.
it sucks being the leader.
I
Like,
mean,
and
here I was walking around still wearing a diaper. If anybody seen my bottle, I'm ready to lay on the couch and watch Barney. But yeah, you're right. It is tough being a leader. There's a lot of pressure. I can tell you that what we talked about a little bit the other day was how my overthinking gets out of control, and I start thinking that I'm not appreciated, that nobody really wants to hear anything I have to say. Um, yeah, it's sort of in that line. Um, and I think I had said something to the effect of, I don't feel like I want to go to any other classes other than mine. And I think the reason I want to do that is because I do feel comfortable in my class, because I'm responsible for the lives of other men. And if I ever get a female to walk in the doors, then hers too. I'm responsible. I feel like not just for their jujitsu career, but I'm also responsible for, to some degree, I like to think, their mental health.
well, that's why I said what I said yesterday to you.
Excuse me.
That's why I wanted you yesterday to look kind of at the perspective of who we talked about,
Yes,
and realize
right.
that that person's still a child.
Correct.
Like, I mean, anybody in their 20s, for the most part, is a child, no matter what they're doing. Like, if, and what I mean by this is like, as a 20-year-old, I didn't think about anything as the reality of what a man was. I didn't think anything about the reality of what I should do as a man or what I should do as a human. I literally just existed, right? Like, I would watch whatever show, whatever movie, play whatever video game. I would go to my job, I would go home, and that's what I did with my life. I didn't think about, hey, how can I become better at videography? How can I be better at jiu-jitsu? How can I be better as a parent? What books can I read to expand my mind? I didn't, I just kind of like did the motions of getting up and going to bed. So I think this has been a pretty good episode. I don't know how long each episode's going to be. We can't probably go insanely long with episodes, but I think every episode should almost have some draw. Some like what would be your advice to the 20-year-old you?
Me personally, well, I can easily say that both of us are kind of goof offs.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're not doing this, and the conversation have had so far has been meaningful. It's the serious side of what we want to accomplish. I also feel like in order to get people to watch and interest them in that, we also have to kind of expand in some other things. It can't always be just about mental health and jujitsu, mental health and jujitsu, mental health and
Oh,
jujitsu.
for sure.
Because then all we become is just like a million other podcasts out there that, like a UFO podcast. What do they talk about the entire time? UFOs. We had this
Probably
sighting.
talking about aliens.
Yeah, same. Yeah, well, yeah, they throw in an alien every now and again. I saw a skinwalker. And that kind of bozo podcast, I want to stay away from. We've pitched some ideas back and forth, um, just to kind of add some common interest. And at times, it very well may be like a comedy show rather than anything else.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's going to be days where but you're going to want to look at me like, what the hell is that guy's problem? Why did he just say that? We're just, look down and shake your head. Um, there's also some other thing. I thought maybe at some point, when we get to a point where we have some viewers, um, do just really short clips of maybe an easy move or something like that, just to improve somebody's one-step game. Like we talked about in class yesterday, one of the biggest things people do when passing the guard is they don't commit to it immediately. They want to wait. They want to make sure they get everything in position. Wait. Okay, now try. But by then, their opponent's kind of going, okay, come on. So making those quick cuts in there, it's kind of what, and it was what I'm getting at is it was a simple thing that you just kind of threw in there, um, and I think it helped a lot of people. I mean, you saw guys committing to those things. So those are the kinds of things I want to do as well. Um, I think at some point, depending on how far we get and what our viewership looks like, maybe some little contests out of it. Hey, win a Boost T-shirt or something like that. We'll play a little. What I thought would be kind of funny was I'm always quoting like movies, movies that have been my favorite, and somewhere in the podcast, quote a movie from, I don't know, Nacho Libre or Three Amigos or something in a way that's kind of obscure. And unfortunately, a lot of the younger people probably aren't going to get all of it. Um, the Pulp Fiction era movie and things like that, where you just say one-liners, and if the first person that can respond, um, gets the prize or something silly like that. Now I know you don't like this idea because we kind of pitched it and you kind of looked at me funny, and it's uh, submit Chad, and it's occasionally I may try to we may be sitting here and I sneak in and try to rear naked choke you. Not that we'll destroy anything or fly over the desk or knock the cameras down or anything like that, but another thing where I put you in a position where I like rear naked choke and just watch you escape it like that, and um, it can be interesting. There's certain quips to our personality, I think, that can make something like that happen. So I'm looking forward to all these things. I think I sent you a page of different ideas that I had. So I know we're kind of letting the cat out of the bag here a little bit.
I think if you're going to want to do segments like that, the best thing that you could do is at like Terre Haute have someone film
That's not a bad idea.
a segment. You know,
Right.
like be like, hey,
Perfect.
hold the camera or whatever.
Perfect.
So, but we can get all that figured out. For ending the show today,
Mhm.
what's one piece of advice you would give your 20-year-old self for kids? So, for kids that are existing today, that you think that maybe they're going through, um, they want to get their life together and get going in a certain direction.
Wow. Man, there's so many things that pop in my head. But if I think back to when I was 20, um, all right, we'll do two pieces. How about that? So, part A would be don't take all the negativity that you hear to heart. Negativity from other people will destroy you if you allow it. The phrase consider the source is a major determining factor, and whether or not, again, here comes the phrase, giving it space. Everything that you do in your life, everything you take part in, every conversation you have, every job that you have, every activity you take part in, gives you an opportunity to choose what information that you want to absorb. And you have a choice. Sometimes that information is very hard to discern. Take your time, process things. Don't give quick answers. Processing is one of the biggest tools that anybody can use instead of making snap decisions. And 20-year-olds like to do that. They like to make these snap decisions. Somebody offends them. Oh, I'm kicking his ass. And they're going right at it. Before you know it, there's blood on the floor, and somebody's going to jail, and somebody's going to the hospital. Um, so that would be my first big thing. And I think if I could say anything else, when I was, I'm going to say 17 to 22, I drank so much alcohol. I smoked so much marijuana, as well as other drugs. And what happened with that is it's not so much that I think having some beers with friends or even using marijuana responsibly, that's up to you, whatever you choose to do. But I think at a young age like that, especially, man,
You have formed, and this is actually tied into mine.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't created the right patterns in your life as a young adult.
Correct.
And so to me, what I was going to say is compound,
Mm-hmm.
compounding habits.
Exactly.
So are you compounding the habits of drinking
Right.
every day and smoking weed every day? Or are you compounding the habits of for me, like I've enjoyed reading the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
like just a few pages every day,
Mm-hmm.
or journaling a little bit every day, like
Sure.
creating healthy habits that allow your emotions to come
Right.
out in a positive way that you can kind of write your feelings down, kind of
Sure.
like you said with the app, using the journaling process as guided for you, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool. So, like, what are you compounding in your daily habits?
Right.
I think that would tie in really well.
And I think from a medical or physical view, when you are 13 and 14 and even 15, you have not, your brain has not experienced full growth yet. You still have a lot of not just things to learn mentally, but it's still growing. Things are still changing in your body at an exponential rate. Even when you're a little bit younger than that, your pineal gland is not calcified. It takes time for that to happen. And when you start using substances like that, it affects those things in your brain, those chemicals, um, all those things, all those synaptic nerve endings that occur. I think that is one of the things why I've had so many problems. Because of my marijuana use, because of my alcohol use, because of drug use, even later on in years. I think it set me up to need those things to survive through hard times. And the harder the times got, the more I felt like I needed those things just to survive. But things have changed now. I have a better perspective on who I was then, who I am now. So, my final piece to that is, at that young age, I think putting chemicals in your body that inebriate you and ruin your sobriety is just a bad idea. Most aren't going to take that advice. They've heard it before. Your mom has said it. Your dad has said it. Your teachers have said it. Nancy Reagan said it. Kind of a mess at times. He overthinks. He's super hyperactive. Um, and he's starting to think things through a little bit more. Um, so I've seen him struggle, and it kind of reminds me a lot of myself. So, but I'm right there with him, and we trust each other, and I think that's what's important. You got to trust your parents too. So I'm gonna shut up about it. It's your turn.
No, it's
I
good.
have a lot to say. I'll sit here and talk all day, man, until I ain't got no voice anymore. Be
We
like,
don't want to draw the episode up too long.
right. Well, you're gonna edit out everything I say, anyhow.
I'm not going to edit any of this. None of this is
will.
getting edited.
That is such a lie.
That
That is such bullcrap. And I tell you why.
you.
I already know why. Because like when I text you and I ask you like 2 or 3 questions, I'm lucky if I get anything except.
And you think I'm going to sit here and edit something?
Yes.
No.
Because you won't.
It's not happening.
It's the goofy faces the goofy emojis when I ask you questions that kills me. I'll ask you something serious about class or, hey, when are we going to do this or XYZ. I get a, like, what is that supposed to be?
That's how this edit's going to go.
Oh my God. Okay.
But anyways, I watched the TED Talk, and the end to end this podcast, the TED Talk. It was some lady. I don't remember exactly who she was. She was some kind of doctor, but basically she said, as you go through puberty, you lose half your brain. Like you legit lose half your mind. Then she called it like you lose your mind because like half of your brain or whatever is going through this process where it's like destroying all these and it's making you completely new when you go through this process as a teen. And that's why you struggle so much with all these emotions because you're literally losing half your mind. So when you add alcohol and drug abuse to that at the same time, and you're trying basically it would be like trying to rebuild something and then adding poison to it the whole time you're trying to rebuild it.
Sure.
So, and it's not to say like don't ever do these things, but again, it kind of comes back to that make smart choices and compound your life in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have started at 18 or 19 compounding my life with what I've been doing in the last year, I couldn't imagine the knowledge and what I could have created where now I'm going to be 10 years behind.
Correct.
So that's going to end this episode with Beyond.
One more thing to say, because I know we were talking a minute, or I was anyway, before you went back to some other things. We're not going to talk about politics, so don't ask. We will not give you our view on anything political.
I'll give you my view on this.
Oh my God.
If I had it to do all over again,
Uh,
I wouldn't watch any politics ever in my life.
I agree.
I would delete all the news because the sad part is unless you're going to go do something about it, unless you're going to go campaign and you're going to get involved in your community or involved in the state or involved in the entire country, unless you're going to go get really involved in it, like it will eat your soul away.
I know. It just makes me so mad
And
sometimes.
I get so tired of watching it.
Yeah.
And you can watch one side and you can get
Yes.
what you want to hear out of that. You can watch
Yes.
another side and get what you want to hear out of that. And at the end of the day, I just feel like we're being played.
Yeah, I know.
So to me, I feel like it's almost going to be another, with all the propaganda going on today, it's going to be another mental health issue for the next generation of people that are like sat and stuck instead of living and doing what they should do with their lives.
So let's wrap this up. This is Beyond the Belt, Chad and Graham. See us next on episode 2.